Welcome in Luc Robitaille. Lucky, how are you?
Wait a minute. What do you mean life is not fair?
Well, you're in California, and
Yeah.
I'm looking
Okay.
at gray
I'll
skies.
live with that. Hold on. Let me look outside. Yeah, it's blue and there's not one cloud.
It's palm trees.
No, the ocean. You got the ocean there too, don't you?
It rained last week and we celebrated it.
Oh. Hey, I work with younger guys here, and they don't understand how a guy can come within a whisker of 1,400 points. Was the top scoring left winger in history, I guess, until Ovi took over here. But how Sammy McKee, my producer, goes, is this a typo? He's the ninth round draft choice of the LA Kings.
They didn't have scouts in Hull?
Is that a typo?
It's not a typo. I was there. I waited from 1 o'clock till 7 p.m. to hear my name at the Montreal Forum.
I listen, I told them it's one of the best stories ever. And this is like you didn't think you were going to be a high pick, but you didn't also think you were going to go in the ninth round. Can you just go into a little bit of detail on what your day was like, including what they gave you after you went to the draft table?
I'll make it quick because I know your time is very valuable.
No, yeah, and yours apparently.
No, but yeah. So I knew I was on rank, and I picked. That was the year we had a really bad team my first year in junior. So I don't think a lot of scouts came to see our team, and that was Mario's year. That was his draft year, and so everybody was, always seeing Mario Lemieux and Laval, and I think he played his home games on Monday night, and we were one of those teams that was never viewed, and so I had kind of read my name in the paper a couple of times, but I didn't know. And I do remember in the morning, I asked my dad, I go, I don't think I should wear a suit and tie. I go, well, what if I don't get drafted or something? So I wore the nicest khaki pants that I had and a golf shirt. and then we didn't, I can't remember. We didn't have tickets to get in the Forum in those days, but the top, all the high-ranked picks would sit in the red, and the fans could sit in the whites and the blues. So my dad and we sat in the whites at the old Montreal Forum. And then, the draft kept going, and a couple of my teammates, they were ranked higher. Their name wasn't coming up, so we would talk. And this is the year where Mario said, if I don't have a contract, I'm not going to show up on the podium. And I think, for some reason, it seemed like Pittsburgh was surprised that he didn't go. So there was like a delay there, and it seems to be forever. And then after that, there were a couple other delays, and then there was like a meal in between. And I recall hearing my name, I think it was around 6, 7 o'clock, because everything was in one day. And the funniest thing is Rogie Vachon went at number 8, and he said, Luc, but he said it in French, because he speaks French, which it sounds Luc. And then he stopped, and a scout ran at him, and he changed the name. And the guy's name was a guy that played in midget AAA. His name was Shannon Deegan. So they drafted him. So then the next round he drafted. Someone must have said, "Don't worry, no one's going to pick him between 8 and 9." And so anyway, when I ran downstairs, and the policeman wouldn't let me on the floor, but Pierre Lacroix recognized me, and he said, "No, it's okay. The kid just got drafted." So
they thought you were a fan.
Yeah, he thought I was a fan, and then Pierre Lacroix said, "Congratulations, Luc." And so I went to the Kings table, and no one was there. They must have been in a break, another break or something. And there was one guy there. His name was John Wolf, and he says, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Luc Robitaille." And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "You just drafted me." He goes, "Oh, yeah. And he goes, "Congratulations." And he's looking, and I'll never forget, he looks under the table. There was a box that was empty. He goes, "I don't have any hats or anything for you." But he says, but he go here, and he had a pin on his jacket, and he gave me the pin. And I found it when when my dad passed away, I found the pin, so I put it in my office as a reminder. Funny enough. But the one more quick thing is he said, "Do you have an agent?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have an agent. I mean, not even one agent ever talked to me." So he said, "Okay." He says, "Here's a piece of paper." You go, "Why don't you write your name, your address, and phone number and everything? We'll get to you about camp information." But I didn't really speak well English, so I kept answering yes, yes, yes. And so I wrote down my address. And I remember I went through the whole month of July, never got anything. I told my dad, I think I gave him the wrong address. Like I was convinced like I had the wrong. Finally, the invite came, but that was my story at the draft. It's great memories though.
Hey, anything like that happen to any of your prospects presently anymore? Is there any chance that a story like that could ever happen again?
No, like everybody's it's so different, Andy. It's organized now. The whole world is different. I don't think that could ever happen again.
I mean, I just I genuinely am curious how you can have 190 points or whatever it was. Maybe your draft year is 150. Did they not go to games? Did they not have video? What happened here?
No, my draft year, I had like 85 points. Like I led our team in scoring. But like I said, we had a really bad team. So then the next year, I got like 150, something like that. Then 190 my third year. But by that time, I was drafted.
Right. Okay. So you go to the Los Angeles Kings in 86, 87. This is Justin Bourne. My dad was Bob Bourne, who was on that team while you were there. And one of my first...
that's awesome. I love you, Dad.
That's great. One of my first memories on earth, and this is no joke, is them having me put baby powder in the blow dryer when you were coming out of the shower so they could, turn on after a fresh shower, blow dryer full of baby powder in the hair. I mean, what was it like at that point being a rookie in the league, going into, a place like Los Angeles and all that after coming off a big year? Was it easy for you? Was there a lot of hazing?
Well, I was lucky my first year. So what happened is they were definitely hazing. And but when we started the year, it was Steve Duchesne, myself, and Jimmy Carson. And Steve Duchesne had gotten, I mean, Kippy, you remember hearing the stories. Like this is even before us a little bit, where guys will get shaved, and it wasn't comfortable, And so I remember we're playing, and then when we started the year, Jimmy and I, we were the leading scorer of the team. So Marcel Dion had said, let's leave the kids alone, just because, we were trying to win games. But at some point, we got to Winnipeg. And in those days, we used to go to Winnipeg, and we would play Friday and Sunday in Winnipeg. And the Saturday was in between. And I remember we're shooting. We were practicing on Saturday. We won Friday. And next thing you know, there was no one on the ice. So Steve, except for Jimmy Carson, myself, and Steve, still shooting pucks. Steve Duchesne comes to me because he had played in the minor the year before. He goes, I know it. This is the day they're going to initiate us. I'm like, really? He goes to me, he goes, I'd rather be first than last. And he sprints off the ice. I'm like, I see him sprinting up. And I look at the other end, and Jimmy's shooting pucks. And I think to myself, well, I'd rather be second than last. So I was a poor skater, but I sprinted as fast as I could. And I went up, and the guys had decided in the room they were only going to touch one rookie, and it was going to be the last one off the ice. So luckily for me, and unlucky. And then what happened is they kind of did a bunch of, things to Jimmy, and then Jimmy went on a 10-game scoring slump. So then, maybe 2 weeks later, the guys were talking. We got to do something for the other two guys. But I think our coach was Mike Murphy at the time, and Murph came in the room. He goes, "No one's touching the rookies," because Jimmy had gotten in a slump and he was leading our team in scoring. So we got saved for a while, okay, and then just when later around. Sorry, it wasn't Mike Murphy. It was Pat Quinn. Because later in the year, when they were starting to talk again, hey, listen, we got to do something for those two rookies. We didn't do anything. Just as there was talk, that's when Pat Quinn left and Mike Murphy ended up being our coach. So we got saved by different events during the year. And then at the end of the year, Jay Wells, I think, came to me and says, You guys didn't get anything. You got to buy a radio. And I was happy to buy.
Yeah, no problem.
Like a big boom box.
Way to go, Wellesley. Oh, my gosh. Do we have to talk about current players now? I love your stories.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, we do. Okay, who's the next Luc Robitaille in your organization here?
Oh, they're all better than me. No, we got a lot of kids coming up, and we're probably in a different situation than sometimes other teams. We have so many good prospects, and we're working, but our ownership group and our plan as an organization is we've been allowed to be patient with them, and that's the hardest thing to do. But even the kid Kaliev, who's a great goal scorer, we're still not playing. Like, he's finally playing some top minutes, but it's only been a couple games. Before that he's been on the fourth line, and he's producing on the power play and so forth. But we're being patient. We've been patient with Gabe Velarde. We have this other kid, Sammy Fagamo, that is a really good goal scorer. He led the World Juniors in scoring, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And then we're still, being patient with Quentin Byfield and Alex Turcotte and, Tyler Madden. I mean, it goes on for us, and we're kind of fortunate that we have this opportunity right now to do that. But we have a lot of good young kids that are going to be real good impact players in the NHL.
I'm going to share some quotes that are going to make Sam McKee, our producer, upset, who loves this guy. Sean Dursey says he has more than 200 people coming to the game tonight. He says a very expensive game for him. A lot of people excited to see him. It's an expensive night. Pumped to be here in Toronto, where he's from. Tell us about Dursey and how he's been for the Los Angeles Kings.
The first thing is, if he paid for 200 tickets, I'm going to have a talk with the kid.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No.
You think Jimmy Carson went into a slump?
Yeah, Dursey.
Yeah, exactly.
Chapter 11 after tonight.
He's been really good for us. Sean has been an impact player. I mean, his vision and the way he sees the ice. He's running one of our power play units, and they've been really, really good. And what we like the most about him is the emotion that he brings into a game. Like, he's, you see guys getting mad at him. He gets involved after the whistle, and he plays to win. So he's been a very, very special player, and we're very fortunate to have him. He came up last year and saved us when Drew was hurt, and he's never looked back ever since. And even this year, when we were playing him on the left side, that's not his normal place. And the kids figuring it out, and he's been really good for us.
We're talking to Hall of Famer Luc Robitaille and president of the LA Kings. You might be the perfect guy for me to ask you this question, Lucky. And that is, when we watch some superstars now take all the 2 minutes on a power play. And I think, when I watch your team, I still get a little bit of a sense that there's 2 units that you guys have. And do you recall in your days over the years, you're scoring 600 plus goals, that was the case back then? Or are you a believer that you do need 2 units to go out there and just for no other reason alone to keep the competitive juices? Or is this the way it's going right now, where these stars are going to take whatever they need to get their cookies?
Yeah, I mean, I think every situation's different. I mean, you got some teams look, if you got an Ovechkin on your team and the way, I'm not going to say he just stands there and shoot, but the way he positions himself and so forth. If I'm a coach or if I'm management, yeah, I want him out there because he's the most dangerous player in the league, And if Austin Matthews stays a little bit longer because he's such a great goal scorer, and the same goes with McDavid and Draisaitl. They're very, very special players. Now, that being said, does that mean it's pretty rare if you do that all the time that you're going to be able to win all the way to the end? You know what I mean? Because you got to have a certain type of discipline as a team. Now, it does. I think some of those guys, we played in the playoffs against Edmonton and last year, and we couldn't wait for the coach to get McDavid off the ice to put the second unit. We're
Right.
like, oh, thank God we can breathe a little bit. So strategically, he was keeping him on, and I thought that was really smart. Can you do that the whole year? I don't think so. I remember watching Sidney, and he's still at his prime, which is amazing, but Sidney was the one guy. After a minute, he would get off the ice, and when you get near the end of the year, you're more of a team than other teams, and that does make a difference. But that being said, there's a few very special players in our league that we're fortunate to see that, I think a lot of times, especially you're down a goal. Now, if you're up 5-2, it should be 1 minute, no questions asked. You should have 2 units all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've seen it, Kippy. I mean, like when the Rangers needed a big goal, if Mess stayed longer, no one said anything because we knew Mess was going to be the difference maker. But that being said, in the first period in the mid-January, the guy should get up. You should have 2 units at all times.
Luke, in the salary cap era, one of the only ways to really turn your franchise around is to kind of struggle for a little while and get some draft picks. The problem is a lot of teams have failed to draft well, turn things around, and look at the Sabres. They've been kind of scuffling for years now. How has your organization been able to turn it around in fairly short order and get back to being a playoff team and competitive so quickly?
Well, I think you have to set a plan, and the first person that needs to be on board is obviously your owner, and then you got to stick to it. And the hardest thing is to stick to it because people. You get pressure and people talk and social media. Like I joke with people, social media is your kitchen. If you think when Kippy was a player, which was a long
Thank you.
time
A
ago,
lot of longs, eh?
like someone would say that Kiprios, you come after the game in your kitchen, you say, Kiprios, what an idiot. He didn't dump it in there and he made a mistake in his own zone. Today, the kitchen is social media. You just write it up and you don't realize it influences hundreds or thousands of people. So that's the one thing you can't let that influence you when you have a goal or a plan as an organization. And it's really hard. It's really hard to live it day in and day out because it's very easy to question any decision that's made. And I think what we've done for us is we're all part of the same plan, and we always remind each other, even though when things are up and down, and that we got to go back to what we set out to do. And at the same time, I give credit to Rob Blake and his crew, where they strategically, were looking for a guy to help us on the second line or first line, and he got Arvidsson early on because it made sense that we were playing, and Deneau. And these guys have really been big difference maker. And then at the same time, they're teaching our young guys the way to play.